Bigweed here. Today we review an ESB and ask you to please put the phone down. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crow Hill. Good evening, Crow Hill.
Good evening, Pigweed.
What is on your mind?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to look here and see what's on my mind.
Oh, for crying out loud!
Look, I mean,
you
what?
Just thinking, what is that? What is that? Is that Candy Crush? No,
my news feed.
Oh, you're moving through so fast.
And then I got to check my email and my Twitter.
I thought we were just going to have a conversation like a couple of grown-ups.
What do you mean?
Yeah, like a grown-up.
You mean I can't be looking at this thing?
With the distraction.
Oh, okay.
Here, will that help? There's a look at that distraction.
There we go. Okay.
There's a shiny object.
Shiny object. Something to distract me away from the phone. Okay, very good. That was well done. Good job. So here we have Extra Strong Boy.
Boy.
So it has this crazy looking fellow on the front. What is he breaking out of? Breaking out of jail? Breaking out of a cage? Yeah. He's like the
in a diaper,
like the purple ape or something. Yeah. So this is a Imperial ESB.
So the ESB, Extra Strong Boy, also known as a
extra special bitter.
Extra special bitter.
Yeah.
Which generally come in the normal range of the stronger than your. It's still more in like the 5 or 6 range.
Yeah. So my understanding, I've never been in a British pub, but my understanding is it's mild, pale. Mild, bitter, special, extra special, and then like IPA and that sort of thing.
Okay, so we're probably, moves up into the 5s and 6s.
Yeah, because mild would generally be like a 3 or 3.5% or something like that. A bitter would be in the 4%. Special maybe 5, 5.5. So extra special would probably be 6, 6.5.
So this one's extra special.
Extra special. Imperial, it's 8.1.
8.1.
Yeah.
So let's tell me if you get all of the ESB flavors and the extra kick.
I'm getting too much aroma for it.
That's part of this strong boy.
Yeah, this I would if you just had me smell it, I would never say ESB. It's an interesting aroma.
Yeah, that's nice. But it does have the right amount of maltiness with a little punch.
It does. So actually, the flavor in your mouth, it's pretty good. But the aroma does not say ESB to me. But when I put it in my mouth, it does have the right kind of blend of maltiness and hoppiness and bitterness. So
quite nice.
Pretty
this is down there in Columbia, Maryland. Black Flag Brewing. Been there for trivia night. Do we go there?
No, it's right down the street from where we went for trivia. Yeah, right down the street. Actually, very interesting. I'm not a fan of the aroma, to tell you the truth. It doesn't fit the style, but the once you get past that, I like it. I think it's very nicely done. Something about that aroma, it makes me think of a Belgian or something.
But it's not an IPA. There's not an American hoppiness.
No, it's not that. It's something else. It's like something like a Belgian-y kind of an aroma.
I'll give you that. Almost as if it's a yeasty aroma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something funky in the aroma, but well done beer. I still like it. Just don't breathe in when you're drinking. All right, so
let me.
I actually before we get into the topic, I wanted to take a slight detour here and just give our viewers, if you're watching, if you're listening, sorry, but if you're watching, I just wanted to mention a few things to you. You know, behind us we have this nice little thing where we have a little description of what we're talking about, and then usually above that we have a little piece of art that goes with the show. And now we have this new dune-ish sort of desert landscape. If you look carefully, that's actually beer with bubbles at the top.
Yes.
So if you want to understand a little bit more about the environment here in Ben Franklin's studio, that's what's going on.
Right, and it has 2 functions. Blocks out the light, which was kind of
annoying.
Killing
changing the exposure on the camera and everything else.
But I
like it.
I was just going to throw a blanket up on the outside and nail it to the wall, but I think this works better.
No, it looks great. It looks great. I love it. Okay, so now back to the topic. So what are we talking about?
This has to be 20 years ago, pre-cell phone.
Yeah.
When it was the beginnings of the handheld game. So there's this commercial, and I even tried to Google around and figure it out what it was. It doesn't really matter, but it would be more fun, where it shows grown-ass adults unable to stand in line at the post office or sit in a waiting room
without
because
doing
they were
something.
too fidgety.
Yeah.
So, hey, but look, we've got these games that you can play jackpot and Tetris or whatever, and now a grown adult can calmly sit and be a patient adult. And I was so embarrassed when that came out. Like I said, this is pre-self. It's gotten 100 times worse. If they had said, if the same commercial had been for a parent with a fidgety child, I still wouldn't give in to the fidgety child.
Yeah.
But at least you could say, look, here's this little toy that makes noises and spins around and will keep your little one calm. Yeah. This is for grown adults saying we cannot expect you
to sit quietly.
Sit quietly or stand in a line without fidgeting around. And I guess they were right. Yeah. And so what we have now...
What have we've trained people. We've trained people to be basically ADHD all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
So I have I got a cell phone. I use it like every other idiot.
Yeah.
But in those circumstances, just as a matter of principle, as a matter of course, I want to be the one guy that says you can still either stand quietly and do nothing.
How about read a book?
Or you can read a book.
Yeah.
So I will bring a book to every waiting room.
Yeah.
And even if I can't concentrate because the guy next to me is watching Wheel of Fortune, I will at least demonstrate that it is still possible to be a grown-up and not be distracted at all times.
There is a trajectory over the last several decades that has been we have to be constantly entertained. You can't just be content with your own thoughts. You can't just sit and admire a sunset. You can't just relax. You have to be doing something, and you're constantly. Oh no! Has my post gotten any likes yet? Did somebody respond to my tweet?
Did somebody? And the psychological consequences we're just beginning to see.
Yes. And this is...
But it even includes our generation, which is frustrating.
It is frustrating.
Which, let me just mention, the last great generation. Because we have been, in our adulthood, been able to benefit from the, electronic communication and the access to all the knowledge of the world, but we grew up without it.
Yes, and we can live without it.
And children since do not know what it's like to grow up without it, and they are damaged.
They are damaged because of it. And there are a lot of things, and Jonathan Haidt talks about a lot of these kinds of things, but obviously there's the question of just being distracted and allowing your brain to develop normally. But if you're getting your social interaction through a phone, you're not getting your social interaction through real human-to-human contact. And we underestimate what's going on there. There's this tendency, and maybe it's from the Enlightenment, it's this idea that we reduce everything down to some sort of an intellectual proposition. And we think that everything about, in a way, this concept of reducing social interaction down to words that can be put on a phone. Well, wait a minute. Aren't other things going on? Aren't you smelling that other person? Aren't you, sharing space with that other person? Aren't there other interactions?
You mean the interaction with
a real person in the real world? And what we've done.
But to me, it's not just that. It's the intonation.
Sure.
So when somebody says, "Do you want to do something?" and you say, "Sure," It also sounds like, sure, I got nothing better to do, right? And it's the same word, and the other person could be reacting like, wow, I'm not very enthusiastic. What about that? I guess he's got nothing better to do than hang, right? So you miss on a million ways.
It reminds me of that old joke where the English teacher is saying that in some languages you're not allowed to have a double negative. Right. In some languages you have a negative. In some languages you can have a double negative, but in no language does a double positive mean a negative. And the kid in the back of the class goes, "Yeah, right."
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, but there is the delivery and the tone that makes that thing punch.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's what you lose in texting. You're just seeing words, and they try to accommodate. They try to make it better with emojis and all that, but it doesn't do it. There's more to real interaction than you're ever going to get through a phone.
All right, and so let's in the sense of permitting people who have grown up on the phone a little bit of leeway here.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of they've hit fake adulthood, meaning that they're in college, and still, but have gone backwards. They behave more like children than the adults 20 years ago did when they were in college.
Yeah.
But so let's move them aside and just talk about actual adults who have no excuse. Did you experience? You were a train rider for a long time.
Yeah.
How long?
Long time, decades.
Okay, decades. So I was like the, twice a month train guy.
Yeah.
But I saw a little bit of this. The transition from reading mostly the newspaper and books.
Newspaper and books, yeah.
To
magazines to some extent, yeah. Yeah, it used to be that I used to sit next to this Chinese guy who would read a Chinese newspaper every day. And
you're looking and going, how can you possibly understand that?
Yes. I asked him one time whether it was left to right, top to bottom. He says, well, it doesn't... anyway.
What? How can it be anyway?
I said, how can that be? You mean... He said, well... He said, if you're driving down the road and you see a sign, like imagine you're in Vegas and you see a sign for a hotel and it's like one line of text going top to bottom,
right.
You immediately figure out what's going on. Right?
Oh, I see. So it's not up to the reader can't read any way he wants, but the writer can, and you'll figure out what it is.
Yes. So he says basically you look at it,
I get it,
and it makes sense this way. So that's the way you read it. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, none of it makes sense. But that's fantastic. Yeah. So
he would be reading the Chinese newspaper, and then I would be reading a book.
Now, did he have it all spread out, blocking everybody through three seats?
Yeah. So my friend from one of my early jobs told me that in New York, in the public schools, they would give you lessons on how to fold a paper so that you could sit in your spot, right, not bother the person next to you, and actually work your way through the paper without spreading it out like
right. And then you would know how to get from A1 to A5 without completely re-unfolding the thing.
Yes, exactly.
And going,
Interesting skill.
Well, yes.
Because the papers were pretty big, but it's interesting that the tabloid style of paper, which is actually a size of paper.
Oh, was it designed for the subway?
I think so.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because it was a smaller footprint for the paper than like the New York Times.
Right. So the Post has always been that size.
Yeah. The New York Post versus the New York Times. They're just different size sheets of paper. But people would, when I was riding the train, people used to sit quietly, or they would read a newspaper, they'd read a book, read a magazine, or they'd talk to their neighbor, that sort of thing.
So as this transition goes along, it is possible that the same news readers are reading the news on their phone.
Well, before we got the phone, we had other kinds of electronic devices, Palm Pilots and other kinds of things.
Right.
People started to get into reading some electronic things.
The old Palm Pilot, right. So you could be catching up on work, getting ahead of what's coming on work. But so before we got, eventually I'm going to get to the worldwide 5G.
Yeah.
But at first, you only had connectivity in your home. Now, was there a time when the train was providing
Not
access?
Not my
or
train.
Was there a time when you really couldn't get any phone access while you're on the train?
Yeah, so in the early days of that kind of stuff, I had a Palm Pilot, and I had a docking station at work, and I had a docking station at home. And what I would do is, before I left the office, I would sync up the Palm Pilot, and it would go out and grab my headlines and everything and download them to the Palm Pilot so that I could read them on the train where I didn't have any connectivity.
That's adorable.
Yeah, and, and the same thing from home. From home, I'd sync it up before I left.
And is it dial up?
Yeah, well, at home it was. At work, it was a better connection, but at home it was dial up. You just push that little button, and it would do this thing.
It seems so quaint now. It was like 5 minutes ago.
That's right. Yeah, and so then, for a time, you had that, and then people started to get actual access where they could have some. Early on, it wasn't as good as it is now, but you could get some kind of an access where you could download stuff from websites and.
Right.
And whatnot, and
so
some people would have their laptops.
And then the transition came where you could, on the train, be connected.
Yeah.
Now, I guess.
What you weren't doing at that point was maybe you were trying to download an article to read, or maybe you were trying to download some specific thing. What you weren't doing is checking your mail, getting notifications, looking at social media. It wasn't as distracting as it is now. It was basically a simple device that would allow you to read on that device rather than having a book or a magazine, right? It was not nearly as invasive and disruptive and fragmenting as what we have now.
So when we did get fully connected, people are on their phones.
Yeah.
You could say, well, the same people that were reading books, magazines, and newspapers are just doing the same thing on their electronic devices. So it's not like they're all teenage distraction.
I would like to believe that, but I don't think that's true. Because if you
when you're walking down, when you're walking down, you're peeking at people's. Are you seeing like Candy Crush and Facebook?
Yeah,
and
exactly. So it changed from reading a newspaper or reading a book to any number of things. You could be on social media. Most people were checking their Facebook feeds, and I wasn't trying to spy on people, but. I was spying on people because as part of my...
And also, when you're walking down, as you get off, there's the people sitting next to you.
Yeah. And it was professionally important to me because I was in the business I was in the publishing industry, and I was in the business of understanding what people did digitally to, get information. So I would look to see. I wouldn't read what was on their screen, but I would try to say, okay, that person's on Facebook. That person's reading the newspaper on a tablet. That person's doing this.
He's reading a Kindle book.
Right, exactly. So I did pay a lot of attention to what was going on, and the level of distraction really pushed people towards the social media side of things. It was Facebook or Twitter or something like that, and my twit face. I think somebody said it. But. Rather than reading an actual article or reading a book or something, they were just getting this ephemeral, quick, brief little
headlines and first paragraph stuff.
Yeah, little bits of candy. Yeah.
All right. So, boy, do I like Elon Musk.
Okay.
I mean, nobody has. You're in the middle of it. You don't see it until 50 years from now. The guy has changed the 21st century all by himself. Mm-hmm. And
he built a car, put it on top of a rocket, and shot it into space.
Yeah, he's giving people. He's going to solve paralysis. He's got putting families on the moon, on the Mars, whatever.
I don't think that's going to happen, by the way.
Tesla.
Anyway, yeah.
Everything. And promised years ago that with Starlink, he was going to provide worldwide 5G.
Yeah.
And everybody anywhere is going to have access. And I remember, let's just backing up from that. I still get people's, what do they call the out of office message?
Yeah.
You email them, and they send back and say, I'm going to be on vacation from this day to this day, and I'm going to have limited access. And so please, if you have anything, if you have an emergency, contact Bob Simmons.
Right.
That's not even true anymore.
Right.
You actually did. There was a time when you left town. This was like in the intermediate period where you were relying on your local Wi-Fi, right? You really did. When you were on vacation, yes, you could go back to the hotel and when your room. Now,
but when you were down on the pier fishing, you could not get your email.
You're sitting on the beach. You're sitting at the campground.
Right.
Now what?
Yeah. Now you got it.
Not even before Elon's 5G. The beach and the campground themselves have made it available.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I think is going on here?
Come on.
Is
put the dang phone down.
Well, here's the difference. I think is there is a level of internet access that is helpful and useful, right? Like, so people being able to buy something on Amazon, people being able to read something on their phone. There's a certain level that it actually is useful for people to have access to the internet.
100%.
But it gets to a point where the internet becomes, rather than being a help and a resource, it becomes a distraction, and it becomes like this addiction. It becomes this thing.
It becomes a lifestyle.
Yes, and people who are always connected to their phone, who are always checking their notifications, who are always checking their email, who can't have a minute of thinking for themselves because this thing has taken over. It's taken over their mind space.
I think it was just like between one summer and the other. Like, I remember having it understood that when I got to the beach, there's no access there. And so I sit down there and I've got my Enquirer magazine, reading about some celebrity scandal, and look around and people are on their phones. I'm like,
what happened here?
So you can do that now? Well, is that a good thing? So
no, it's not.
As far as the upside, like, all right, so you're attacked by a wolverine on a trail.
Yeah.
What? You don't want to be able to call the park ranger?
Yeah.
All right, I get it. You drive off a cliff in some remote area. Yeah. So you want to trade that in? I don't know, kind of. I might have to trade that in for the constant 100% access. I'm sorry, Starlink.
So I saw this commercial where somebody was riding their bike on a mountain trail.
Yeah.
And they crashed. And their phone recognized that something bad had happened.
No.
Called 911 and sent somebody out to get them.
So what are you going to do? You're going to say that's a bad thing?
Yeah. So
well, you got me in a bad position.
Yeah. So obviously there are incredible benefits to things that you can do.
The phone recognizes your diminished heartbeat.
Yes. So that is a great thing. But the other side of it is that we aren't mature enough, disciplined enough. I don't know what it is. We aren't able to set the thing aside. You see people out on a date. You see a couple at a restaurant out on a date, and they're both looking at their phones. Like, what is wrong with you? Look at her, Oh. And or you see people who can't be with somebody without checking their phones, without looking to see what the latest update is. Yeah, I've seen pictures of groups of teenagers sitting around in a room where all of them are looking at their phones and they're messaging one another on the phones rather than talking to each other in real life.
All right, teen party.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly. Yeah, not the kind of party we had growing up.
Or you go. son, what are you doing here? Dad, leave me alone. I'm hanging out with my friends. Wait, what do you
really?
mean
Where are
hanging
your
out with
friends?
your friends?
Are they invisible? What is this?
Oh.
Yeah. So I think there are clear benefits to the technology, but we haven't figured out how to make it work with the human psyche, because as it is right now, it's more of a sickness than it is a benefit. And
it is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we. Well, there's no way we're gonna. My optimistic side is we're going to see like the damage done on this current generation, and later we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's way too optimistic. There is no way, because those same damaged kids are going to become parents, and they're not going to turn around and go.
Well, they're not becoming parents because they're all on their phones. Yeah.
They're not making babies. They're not even touching each other's private parts.
Exactly. They're just
all right,
texting.
What's satellite pollution? There's
so many satellites out there.
Isn't it just like the space is getting so cluttered?
Yeah.
That it's actually interfering with stargazing.
Yeah. So I was on a fishing trip with my father. It must have been 20 years ago. So it's got to be worse now. And we were out in North Carolina, way out away from the city.
So no pollution.
No pollution. You could lay down, look up at the sky, and watch satellites go by.
Yeah.
It was
so.
It was really
imagine
cool.
now. I mean, I'm sure Elon Musk has launched 500 by himself.
Yeah.
So it's cluttered up there,
Mm-hmm.
And this 5G access. Mm-hmm. So what does a remote village, other than somebody was bitten by a black mamba snake?
Yeah.
That would be good if you could get medical attention that you couldn't get before, versus having having the kids, sitting around staring into a phone, looking at things that they had no idea ever existed before.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to work out for, the traditional rural life in India and the Amazon and whatever?
Yeah, so I'm not like, I don't buy into this idea that people living in the Amazon with nothing but like grass to cover themselves, and their teeth are rotting out of their mouths because they have no dental care, and that we should somehow preserve that kind of thing. No, I don't buy that. I think we should be bringing them into a more modern lifestyle. However, having said that,
okay.
There are still people who, like somebody who's a farmer out in Montana or something like that. I don't think trying to impose a city-like addiction to your phone on these people is a good thing, because the question is, what are you doing on that stupid thing all the time? And what I think the agenda is that the phone has become a tool for manipulating the way people think. The phone has become a tool of the tech elite to try to reshape humanity the way they want it to be.
Right. So that I agree with you, but keep going.
So okay, in a few different ways. One way is just you're dependent on us. You're addicted to us. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line economic thing. Is we want these people to be completely dependent on us. We want to use your information. We want to turn you into a product,
right,
where we take your information and we sell it. We use it for whatever we're trying to use. But we also
for somebody else to sell you either
goods
goods or ideas.
Yes, exactly. But then also we want to curate the information that you're exposed to, so that you only see, if we believe that the future is eating bugs and not owning any cars, then that's the kind of content that we're going to. So I think in a lot of ways, this whole idea of giving everybody internet access, getting everybody addicted to their phone, is in service of this kind of this vision of the future of the populace where,
well, that's
where
kinda,
the tech elite are controlling everything.
All right. Well, that's a
Kind of dark.
that's bleak. Yes. I mean, it could just be a misguided idea that. I don't think that Saint Elon has nefarious thoughts in providing, 5G connection to the Amazon. But I think it's, gosh, how can I possibly call the smartest man in the world naive? But the idea that there's going to be a net positive to villagers. If they sure.
If only they can watch what's going on Twitter.
If they can access, they're going to access advanced farming techniques. Yeah, okay, I guess that's good. But that's like a 1 in a million versus watching stupid TikTok videos and somebody being kicked in the nuts.
Yes.
For laughs.
Yeah, and so I can at the same time think that Elon Musk is a genius and think that he's naive. Like, for example, his whole moving...
Don't call him nefarious.
I didn't say nefarious,
All
but his whole idea about moving colonies to Mars, I think...
It's not very hospitable, is it?
So, we have absolutely no idea how a baby develops in 1/3 Earth's gravity. We have absolutely...
Is that what Mars is, 1/3?
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah, so we have absolutely no idea what happens when a baby is growing up not in our ecosystem with all our bacteria and flora.
How about a
and fauna.
basketball game at 1/3?
That'd be kind of cool.
That would be fun.
That would be fun, yeah. But I think in some ways, I do think he's naive about some of his futuristic, crazy ideas. Despite the fact that he's a genius, I grant that he's a genius, I do think that he's not really thinking through some of the issues that he's pushing.
I don't see how worldwide 5G. I don't even like it on the beach and the campgrounds.
Yes.
We used to go to the campground, and it would be the time that we would not have the TV on at home, and it would be the time that we would play Yahtzee together. And now, well, I mean, we don't do this, but it would be easy to go there, and now you just bring your laptop and everybody watches a movie at the campground.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hell, we could have done that at home without the bugs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the solution to this is going to have to be individual responsibility and people, like, for example, you go into church, and before the church starts, somebody gets up and says, silence your phones. Right? Which of course makes sense.
Are you suggesting that, or are you saying that it does happen?
No, that does happen.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that does. That's what should happen.
Yeah.
And every sensible person should do that anyway. But they still remind you, silence your phones,
Good.
because you can go for an hour and a half without looking at your stupid phone, right? So what needs to happen is people need to start reining in their addiction to their phone. Yeah. They need to start coming up with, okay, this is during this time.
How many people when you walk through the gym to the swimming area? Yeah. How many people are looking at their phones in between pressing their?
Yeah, almost everybody.
Almost everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's like, or I see a guy. Man, this guy is fit, no shirt, and his phone is in his hand. Like, where are you going?
Yeah.
You afraid you're going to miss something on your 30-minute jog, which would be long for most people.
Yeah.
You can't just leave the phone at home.
That's one thing that's really good about swimming.
That's the only place. Although the people, how about the jumbos over there in the jacuzzi? They all have their phones.
They do. They do.
Do they have little plastic coverings on them? Or
I don't understand what they're thinking. They're
sitting what are they even doing?
They're sitting there in the water with a phone. I'm like, you're about to ruin a $500 device.
I hope you do.
But one of the good things about swimming is it's just you and your thoughts. Now you can get the underwater bone conducting headphone thing, so you can listen to a podcast.
I'm buying them for you for Christmas. Just to see
it is nice to just be cut off for a while. I'm swimming. I'm not on my phone. And
Oh,
we
for
need to
heaven's sake.
what we need to do, the point of this episode is put down the
Put
damn
down
phone.
the damn
And
phone.
we need to start coming up with
Phone shaming.
yes, and we need to start coming up with restrictions on what we're doing. At dinner time, put it on do not disturb. When you're out for dinner with your wife, put it turn the phone off and put it away. There are certain times where it should just be done and you're off.
Yeah, I mean, I think sitting on the beach and camping.
Exactly.
Those count for.
Those should be times. There's no reason why somebody has to contact me when I'm away for the weekend camping.
And like I said earlier, that used to be a joy.
Yes.
It used to be,
Yeah.
and now it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
When they get those out of are those out of office messages, are they just like 5 years old, or
Yeah.
are people just trying to trick you? Like,
Now here's the tricky thing about camping, because we went on our incredibly adventurous
Oh, gosh.
canoe camping trip recently, and I don't want when I'm out on the river and we're paddling down the river, I do not want to get an email. I do not want any of that kind of crap. But you know what I might want? I might want my Merlin app to tell me what bird is making that call.
Yeah, right.
I might want my Picture This app to tell me what is that plant, right? So there are some cool things about technology that actually are helpful and useful in that kind of an environment.
Right.
We just need to develop more of some wisdom about how to curtail this stuff and keep it in its right proper place.
All right. Well, I agree, and I also still propose that you need to put the damn phone down.
Yes, put it down.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.